VIPER. She's the best agent on ICEBOX in the game, and if you want to play ICEBOX as a controller main, you need to know how to play her, but she plays extremely differently from every other controller in the game. But don't worry, I've got you covered. I'll show you the best setups, lineups, how to lurk properly, how to anchor properly, sick ultimate placements, and more. Everything you need from fundamentals for a beginner all the way to Radiant and Pro techniques.
Let's dig in.
ICEBOX is synonymous with VIPER. Thanks to the unique design of ICEBOX, which features wide openings on both sides and a very intricate and interconnected mid-space, VIPER has the two best abilities in the game for solving each of these issues on the map. Her wall for sights and her orb for mid. Let's start with the defensive setups. Your default defensive setup is going to include the 410 wall on A and the default orb on B. One of the great things about this setup is it allows you to play on either side. It's only a short run to throw both the A wall and do a lineup for the B orb. To throw this lineup, run up the stairs towards the back of kitchen, stand in the corner. You're going to line up your middle HUD line, use the right point of it with the right point of the dark gray section on the wall, and just throw. A lot of people will use a very similar and slightly easy to remember lineup where they line up with the tip of the crane instead, which is fine enough, but there's noticeable advantages in using my optimized lineup. It's closer to being flush with the sight wall, and it gives you better coverage from attackers trying to see over it from atop the box in main. And while we're on the topic of optimizing your default util, this VIPER wall sucks. Here's what to do instead. Line up where the light meets the dark on the ground and aim at the top corner of screens. That's going to give you this wall which breaks apart and gives you extra coverage. This is because of how the wall segments land. Because the segments skip the middle platform and go from the top of 410 all the way to the floor, there's too much vertical distance for the wall to be able to connect, so it breaks off and creates a new wall from the bottom layer. And this extra coverage means attackers can't see over the wall from belt. You'll notice there's a slither of a gap between the two wall segments. This is to your advantage because it creates another angle for the defenders to worry about whilst you're purely focused on the belt swing. You can also isolate a fight against Nest using the wall to cover anyone peeking from pipes. Now, I'm not just going to show you one wall and be done with it. We've got variations. Variety is the spice of life, and using subtle variations is a huge advantage to you if they allow you to play the round out a little bit differently, because it's something that your opponents won't expect or know about. So something as simple as changing the wall so it doesn't do a split segment and continues down gives you the ability to hold from rafters where opponents don't normally expect that. My preference for the default VIPER wall is to not have it cut off pallets, because if I'm rotating through mid and my team needs me to wall up, it makes it really hard to push into screens because I'm just smoking myself off. And if you have the standard Killjoy turret in mid or someone holding it, you don't need to worry about mid lurks and smoking off pallets. But in the situations where you might want to do that, here's the wall for it. You're going to jump up onto the boxes behind boiler and then line up your crosshair with this dot on the wall. That's going to give you the same wall break across 410, plus this little pigeonhole above screens where the wall will protect you from any recons. And of course, the biggest difference is that it does smoke off pallets. However, there's a very specific reason I'm showing you this lineup rather than just telling you to smoke off pallets, and that's this gap. If you're having a hard time containing or retaking screens, switching to using this wall can give you another tool to help achieve that. This gap allows you to cheat through the choke point. You might have noticed me doing a 270-degree turn. That's not for style points. It's to allow you to reposition yourself without poking your gun barrel through the wall. But what about using the wall to play on site? If you're playing on A, a lot of the time you'll be playing on rafters, where you can create an easy high-low with a teammate, but make sure that you're playing on top of the rafters so you can fall back if you need to, so that your team has smokes for retake. By falling back to stairs, you can also deny the plant with your molly. And you're in luck because I've got an eyeball lineup for you that will hit all 3 main plant spots. It's very simple. The back of A stairs handrail is actually kinked, meaning you can actually walk up onto the handrail without needing to jump. So as you're falling back, walk diagonally into the railing, and as soon as you come up onto it, all you have to do is aim at the left edge of this floating metal piece near the reactor. So now you should have a good idea of how to defend A. Wall up for the main push, fight with a teammate high-low, fall back as you need, molly to stall the plant, and then wall up again for the retake. If you're playing weak side A, then falling back is super important because you need that wall for the retake. When you're strong side though, you can feel more comfortable taking risk to go for some cheeky kills. Like taking the rope to the top of 410 after you put your wall up. Very rarely are people ready for that. Playing your nest is great too if you got teammates on the ground. It's really hard for attackers to clear nest as they push through the wall. Just be careful with your positioning to make sure that your back's not exposed. I've got more tips and tricks and ways to play A, but let's get to the B orb default setup first. So this default B orb that we've thrown is so great because it has multiple uses. Firstly, it covers the cross to yellow, which is helpful for your teammates who have been fighting B main from yellow to be able to get out safely to sight, but also allows you to cross to yellow safely, which is really important in the retake to take yellow, but maybe you want to sneakily reposition into yellow with the orb up, or use your orb up to help your teammates and flood in towards them. Secondly, the main function of using this orb is to deny the attackers from planting. The orb's decay effect makes it a lot easier to spam the planter, and if you combine it with other pieces of util like nano swarms or your own snakebite, that's big damage or even kills on people trying to plant. And if you're playing back sight, you don't even need to be able to see the planter. If you aim near the corner of the orange box, your molly will hit default still. Thirdly, in the post plant, it helps you protect your diffuser. Decay only affects opponents, so you can smoke the spike and force the attackers to engage with you. This orb is amazing, but it's not the only great orb that VIPER has on B site. If you're playing on B, you can throw a one-way for B main. Stand top site in the corner near the rope, press up against the beam, then line up the beam edge with the edge of these containers. Then use the latch on the middle container to get your height and move your crosshair over so you're not going to throw it into the container. Normal throw. Now this one way is incredible because not only is it a one way from sight, it's also a one way from yellow into main, forcing attackers to deal with it twice. And it's not only good for holding sight, it's great for retake as well because you eliminate all of these angles from main. It's not uncommon that you might play last rotator on B site, so if you need to fall back and play safely, you can play in snowman and still be able to stall and deny the plant for your teammates to rotate back towards you. And if you stand on top of the barrels, there's an easy lineup for default. Place your crosshair at the top of the concrete ledge between the two leftmost upright yellow railings. Normal throw. And if you're playing on A, here's a snakebite lineup from boiler to stop the plant. Running towards the barrels and then look for this little gray box above the tube. You're going to line up the very left point of your HUD with the tip of that box and normal throw. There's some other cool things to do on A, which involves getting aggressive. First, let's start with the ult.
Don't get in my way.
VIPER Spit is a great way to contest early A space because it covers the orb, it covers pipes, it covers the rope. The main thing that you have to worry about is recon utility and getting pushed out of your pit by a scan, but you have good fallback options anyway. Other than being the only ability in the game that can really smoke off this whole area, another reason why this ult is so good is because you get to play on the high ground.
It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power. Don't try it.
To do this ult, when the pre-round counter hits 0, jump forward and pull out your ult mid-air, attach to the rope, jump onto pipes, and rip the ult. Now let's break that down a little bit more slowly. So jump with your knife out for a little bit of extra momentum, then pull out your ult and attach to the rope. And when you land on pipes, you want to land as close to this corner as possible. That's going to give us the best kind of spacing with more place to retreat. You don't get much extra value by going a little bit deeper into the space. So as you land kind of close to the ult and close to this edge, you're going to pull your ult out and look at this face. And you can see the indicator kind of locks in on this sort of diagonal spot. And then you're just going to rip the ult. And by doing that, that's going to give you space at the very top of pipes, as well as back here to retreat, back there to retreat. So you can play all the way up the top here. Then you can also play right up close. You can drop down. You can play back here. You can hold these kind of off angles. You can rat into here as well. You know if someone's going to be coming behind you because you'll hear them drop. Essentially, you got lots and lots of options to play in this ult. And if you need to fall back, you can even fall back this way and reposition around through maze, which is an easier reposition. This is a pretty good spot to hold in this ult. When you ult on A, you can do standard default util, or you can give your B players a bit of extra support by throwing this wall from kitchen to B main. Thrown this way, you can still see over the wall from top site to see under tube. And if you want to get aggro without your ult, you can use an A lobby wall. I've got two slightly different ones for you. They're best comboed with your snakebite and a shock dart if you've got it. But just because you're throwing this wall doesn't mean you have to get aggro. It will get predictable if you don't switch it up. Come stand in front of Jen and then find this little mark on the ramp. Use your mouse indicator of your wall throwing icon to line that up. And the reason for this is so your wall doesn't cut off mid. You can see on the minimap it actually travels across to mid, and here's what it would look like if we aimed high in the air, which means we're smoking ourselves off from one of the best info lines as defenders. It's unique to ICEBOX for defenders to be able to see into attackers spawn so easily, and it's a huge advantage for defenders to know if attackers are rotating from either side. So we don't want to smoke that off if we can avoid it. And luckily we can, because VIPER's wall is actually a projectile when you launch it, which means you can aim it into the ground and send the nodes underground so they don't spawn on the map. And that's how we cut the A wall short. What this wall does cut off is the rope access to nest and the tunnel entry to A lobby. It also gives you just a little bit of hard cover when you want to swing through the wall behind nest. Now to keep it mixed up, when you want to throw this aggressive wall but you don't want to be predictable with your aggression, stand against the wall behind Jen and line up the edge of Jen with the edge of 410 and aim your crosshair just to the right of the rope holder at nest. Now as you can see, this wall has a slightly different line and is overall better when you're not pushing bottom aggro through pipes and nest. You no longer cut off ropes or get access to the wall cover for the swing, but instead you get some pseudo cover top pipes for a pick peek, you get a flush cutoff between Gen and 410, and you get this nice little hidey hole behind Gen as well. And because of the angle of the wall, I encourage you to play in maze as well. This wall becomes less valuable in a retake, but gives you lots of extra options to fight for site. One last thing for defending A site. If you're trying to flood in towards A site, but the attackers beat you to it, you can still deny the plant by standing in this corner, finding the second block, and mollying off the roof. And now it's time for attack side. If you know what you are doing as Viper, you can solo carry the game very easily on this half. And I know that's a clickbaity phrase, but I promise you, I am not kidding when I say that. You can solo carry with this agent. So here's the default setup for attack. Whether you're going A or B, you're a solo controller or have double smokes, this is a setup that will work in every round. You put your wall down onto B and your orb in mid. I'll show you the lineups for both in a sec. There's several reasons for this setup. Firstly, because going B absolutely requires the wall, but it doesn't contribute much to A site. Secondly, if you wall A at the start of the round, it gives away which site you're going to, and whether or not you can commit to A isn't determined until after the opening engagement, where defense is often looking for an aggro pick up pipes or belt. So if you lose that opening engagement, or you realize that A side is stacked and you try to rotate B, both the mid orb and the B wall help you apply pressure across the map. The B wall not only smokes site, it helps you get out of B main, which can be especially painful against ops. You can wall up to break the op line, allowing you to flash over the wall and push through. And when you wall with the proper lineup, you even leave a gap wide enough to lurk into double box. So here's how to throw the perfect Viper wall for B site, which perfectly cuts off top site and snowman. So you're going to walk into this line outside of garage, find the cross section, look up to this little box on the right and aim just inside the corner. Now it can be a little imperfect because you're walking into a wall, not standing on a direct point. So use these reference points on the minimap. It should go over the top of the corner of the double stack box and the back corner of top side. Viper's mid orb is one of the most interesting util solves in Valorant. The mid of ICEBOX is quite different to most other mids in Valorant. It's not a wide open courtyard space. It's a tiny corridor that's hard to push through, and defenders can hold it from 3 separate locations on the map: boiler/pallet, tube, and orange. And like we mentioned, it lets defenders see into attackers spawn. So if attackers don't deal with this problem, their options are severely limited. And that's where Viper's orb comes in. It blocks off the orange and boiler lines, allowing you to cross the tube, and the fact that you can put it up and down over and over again creates constant pressure, unlike the smokes of other agents. It's important to know a lineup so you don't leave a gap for boiler to see over or have your orb fall short of blocking under tube. And you're in luck because I've got not 1, not 2, but 3 lineups for you today. The first and most simple is to stand at the top of this yellow arrow, then just look at the top of the blue container and throw just to the left of it. This one is good when you're starting mid and want to take the most aggressive lurk timings, but sometimes you want to start B. So here's how you can throw one from B side. Stand in the corner against this railing and then see this diagonal line on the shipping container. Line up your little flick with your HUD on top of that and you're good to go. Now you can get an early start on your B lurk or hold the B space. Lastly, if you start A, maybe doing a shock molly combo for the A orb, then you need a safer orb to throw, which you can do by firstly jiggling or jump peeking for the hold, then jump up onto this box, aim at this dark part on the mountain. Normal throw. Okay, throwing the orb into the right spot is one thing, but knowing how to actually use it well is another. There's no point putting your orb mid if you're not going to cycle it. Every time you put your orb up, it creates pressure on the defenders. They don't know if you're trying to lurk through mid or your team is rotating, or it's just for show. But either way, it puts a massive question mark in the middle of the map because the orb breaks down the crossfires and sightlines that defenders can use to hold mid. This pressure that you build up in mid throughout a round and throughout the half makes it easier for your team to go towards sight. The defenders are worried about your presence in mid. They don't have full attention on your team going sight. There's 2 core pillars to successful lurking. By mastering these 2 things, you will stay ahead of the defenders: conditioning and variation. It's too broad of a topic to go in depth for this video, but the short version is conditioning is how you set up your opponents to have expectations about what you're going to do. If you create a routine or pattern of behavior, then defenders will come to expect it. Like if you cross the tube the first time that you orb up every round. Any defense with half a brain is going to send someone tube and wait for you. After you've set up an expectation or conditioned your opponents, you can add variance to catch them off guard. As an example, instead of crossing to tube on your first orb up in the next round, you hold mid instead. The defender might get curious as to why you're not there and push down tube into your crosshair. Or they might think that you're not lurking this round and go help where the pressure is being applied, leaving it open for you to find a lurk. But it's not just time that you can play with, it's space as well. Changing up your pathing can get you some nasty lurks. If you've conditioned defenders to expect you in one lane, then there's likely a gap in another. And this orb gives you so many options to play with. If you want to switch up your util for a fast A, for example, if you plan to force it with a powerful ult like lockdown, then you can throw your wall over screens, and here's a lineup for an orb to hit rafters. Okay, once the barrier's down, come stand on this cross section here, and then you're going to look up, and you're going to find this light, and aim halfway in between the light and the wall. jump throw. That is going to land perfectly on the edge of the rafters, blocking the backside swing and rafters peaks. If I'm going to throw any kind of rafters orb, I always like to wait until my team at least has pipes control. So that way, if we get stopped from going A early, we can then use the orb in mid. For post plant, you're generally going to be looking to do one of two things. Stalling with your util, whether that's your smokes or your molly, or looking for a late lurk or backstab kills. When your team ends A, it can be more difficult to look for those backstab kills because the timing's a lot tighter. If you go too early, they're likely holding you. If you go too late, you're not in a good spot to contest the defuse. However, if your team plants B, holding onto tube for any players rotating through orange is often high value. If you don't have a clean shot, don't feel forced to take it and give away your position. You can creep up behind them and get a clean kill. Once you're through, you can even throw a snakebite from orange to deny the defuse. But keep in mind, snakebite takes 6.5 seconds to deal 150 damage. Here's a number of post-plant lineups that you need for both sites. These are the easiest post-plant lineups you're ever going to learn. They're so easy. I've got 5 of them in this video. This first one is so easy, it barely counts as a lineup. In B main, standing on the jump up box, you can aim at the top of yellow and hit default. I told you they're easy. This next one you throw from inside garage. Just line up against the door frame. Peek out so you can just see the edge of the shipping containers. Then from between the shipping containers, move across to where this bare part of the mountain has no snow and throw. Next one's for when you've been on a cheeky late lurk through mid. Whilst pressed against the wall on your left, line up so you can just see the top corner of top sight and throw. Over to A site now, where I've actually got 2 lineups that use the same reference point and cover both default and ropes plants. To do this first one, very simply jump onto the corner of this box and aim at the top part of this wall. Easy peasy. But if being on top of belt is too risky, you can drop down and line up so you can see a sliver of that same wall and then run and throw at it. Don't always save your mollies for post plant. Here's 2 start of round lineups to help with the A contest. You can one-shot kill somebody with a snakebite and a shock dart. And on ICEBOX, the A orb is a perfect bait for defenders to run into it for you. Here's how you can get some free kills. As VIPER, line up with this cross on the ground, then move all the way to the right. And simply, on the side wall of nest, vertically in line with the light behind it. For Sova, find where this line meets the snow, stand right on top of it, then line up the tip of this red arrow with your second bounce diamond and shoot. Sova, you want to hold your shock dart off for a second so that the snake bite can land first. Very simply, come stand in this corner, then with the little arrow indicators, you line them up with the furthest left arrow, normal throw. VIPER has several incredible ults for attack side, so here's 2 for each site. This first ult gives you an incredibly strong post plant when you're able to plant open at gen. Get yourself on top of belt, come stand in the back corner. It doesn't have to be precise, but somewhere on this triangle is generally good. Then you just look at the top of the rope and throw it. Obviously, this ult is incredibly good because it's hard for defenders to come and push you out. As VIPER, you want to play on top of belt here or down in jail so that you're protected from spam and you can trade kills. So for the rounds where you need to get the plant off default or rope, you can't plan open gen. If you stand just a little bit wide of default and look at this circle in the box, you're going to get this great on-site ultimate, which covers all the way to the back corner so you can play deep in it. And you'll be able to see the feet of anyone trying to walk atop of rafters. You can also just ult from a top of 410. Generally look towards the box here. It's going to be a really good ult that's going to give you the ability to jump up top and hold against anyone pushing into your ult. This is my go-to ultimate for B site. It plays very similarly to the belt ult with elevation and cover to fall back. Stand on top of the main box in the back corner and look towards default. And my favorite ult on the map, whenever you can pull it off, it's pretty much a free round win, is the kitchen ult. Whenever you're able to take kitchen, come stand behind these boxes and then just look at the cross section on the yellow railing. Send your ult out. Now you're going to want to get the plant down on top site. You can plant on the bridge or you can plant on site somewhere. This extends all the way out to the back of kitchen. You can even have teammates swing stairs without exposing themselves to snowman. You can even play very sneakily here outside of the jump up of kitchen window. Hold anyone coming through orange and then look for backstabs through the hallway. And there you go. That's your toolkit for winning with VIPER on ICEBOX. I hope you gained some RR. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the Discord or in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, you might want to check out our other video guides on this channel or the Patreon content. And let me know below what agent, map, comp, game concept you would like to see a guide for next.